All right, Nuggets fans, welcome into Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends here at Mile High Sports and FanDuel. I'm your host, Ryan Blackburn at NBA Blackburn on Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network, and I am here. I am ready to discuss the Denver Nuggets as they sustained a pretty significant loss to their rotation over the course of this last weekend. Of course, I'm talking about the Aaron Gordon injury and the news that came out subsequently yesterday that hey, it's going to be out at least 4 to 6 weeks with a right hamstring strain, a grade 2 hamstring strain, which is a little bit more significant than grade 1, which would just be a little tender. Grade 2 is one where you have to take your time. Grade 2 is one where it is at least a little bit concerning, and you have to make sure it's all the way healed before you bring a guy like that back, because there is a major risk for re-aggravation, for re-injury, and then all bets are off at that point. So Denver's going to take their time with Aaron Gordon. They are going to try to limit his overall usage and overall minutes and make sure that he is all healthy and ready to go before he's able to come back. Once again, my name is Ryan Blackburn, host here at Mile High Sports and the Pickaxe and Roll podcast, also a host over at Locked On Nuggets. Make sure to go check out both platforms. Doing good work and always trying to put out the best possible content for everybody. And it's these situations, it's these times where I feel really good about my contributions to the community, my contributions to the Nuggets discourse, because oftentimes I am asked to put together rotation charts and like evaluate how certain players and how certain things are going to fit, how certain things are going to feel. And I feel like I've got a pretty good concept of this. And so with Aaron Gordon being down, with Christian Braun being down, there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of question marks, I think, for the Nuggets and what they are supposed to do in this moment. I've got thoughts. They are not perfect. I could be wrong, but I do feel like I have a pretty good pulse on where the Nuggets should go from here. Aaron Gordon, of course, is extremely important to who the Nuggets are. Aaron Gordon is somebody that, like, you ask anybody around the NBA, and the three most important players on the Nuggets who define who they are Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, and Aaron Gordon, and not always in that order. Aaron Gordon gives them that two-way ability, that versatility, can be a release valve for them on the offensive end, somebody that works directly with Jokic to help make his life easier on like pretty consistent measures. And then on the defensive end, he is always somebody that, like, sometimes he's not like the closeouts and things like that aren't necessarily always there. But when he has a matchup that he knows that he needs to rise up for, he's always capable of the challenge and willing to take on assignments like Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, Luka Doncic. He's been the matchup for a lot of these games. And without him, Denver gets worse. They clearly do. The plus minus with and without Aaron Gordon on the floor this year is pretty jarring. There was a number that I put together yesterday, or actually, no, for this morning on Stat of the Week for Mile High Sports that I want to share here really quickly. According to Cleaning the Glass, the Nuggets have a point differential, a net rating of minus 12.4 points per 100 possessions in the 600 possessions that they've played without Aaron Gordon and Christian Braun on the floor. That's even including Nikola Jokic. That's including the best player in the world, the guy who often props up these numbers, and everything is generally pretty good with him. Now, with Jokic out there, it gets better, but it's still negative. It's minus 3.4 net rating so far without Gordon and Christian Braun. So this is a concern. This is something that Nuggets fans have to take seriously. And over the course of these next 4 to 6 weeks or so, Christian got injured last week. So Denver, I think they have a little bit of a head start on that injury. Aaron Gordon's timetable is a 4 to 6 week timetable, and then he will be reevaluated. If we assume that they're back towards the 5 week threshold, somewhere in that 5 to 6 week threshold, then they're coming back at some point towards the beginning or maybe towards the end of the long road trip that the Nuggets are going to be playing. So they're going to be gone for 15 plus games, maybe even closer to 20 games. And that is a pretty major concern. So this is something that the Nuggets have to figure out. With Jokic, like I said, with Jokic without Christian Braun, Aaron Gordon, they're minus 3.4 points per 100 possessions. Without Jokic, it's way worse. Minus 23.8 net rating in the minutes without Jokic, Gordon, or Christian Braun in 265 possessions. And again, this is cleaning the glass. So this eliminates garbage time. This is when the game is supposed to be close. This is when the game is in hand and you have to be the best version of your team as much as possible. So Denver's got some work to do. They have some things to figure out about who they are, what they're trying to accomplish, and what the next step is to win games without two of their important starting caliber players. Now, it's still not Jokic or Murray, and that I think is a saving grace in and of itself. Those guys have been driving offense and doing a lot for the Nuggets, and oftentimes when you miss a more defensive inclined player, although Aaron I think is both of those things. He's both offense and defense. But when you're missing defensive guys, replacing them with defensive guys is often easier than when you're trying to replace an offensive guy and have to sort of rebuild and recalibrate what you do on that end on a consistent basis. So I think that from that standpoint, Denver has a little bit of a head start here. They've been starting Spencer Jones. In some of the games, he's been very good. In some of the games, he hasn't been perfect. And Denver, like they still have to figure out how they build around that, what they're trying to do. It's not going to be perfect, like I said. But I do think that if I'm looking at what the Nuggets can try to accomplish, I put together this projected rotation chart on social media yesterday. It involves not Spencer Jones starting, but Tim Hardaway Jr. starting in place of Christian Braun, and then Peyton Watson sliding to power forward in place of Aaron Gordon. I think that this lineup personally is one that Denver should be getting to very consistently. And if it's not the starting group, then it should at least be a group with Jamal Murray, Tim Hardaway Jr., Cam Johnson, Peyton Watson, Nikola Jokic. Those are your five best players right now for Denver, in my opinion. Like with Aaron Gordon out and with Christian Braun out, those are your five best players. And I think you should try to play them as often as possible together. Now, Tim Hardaway Jr. is a veteran. He's somebody that has been coming off the bench. He started in some second halves and things like that. But I think, did he also start a game earlier this year? I don't remember. But given the injuries that the Nuggets have and given the absences, like you want to be able to trust guys that are vets. You want to be able to put guys into positions where they can be successful. And I think the idea here is that you have Tim Hardaway Jr. spacing the floor and giving Jokic and Murray a pretty consistent option that they can go to, who is going to let them breathe on the offensive end early and allow them to get into the game. And then at that point, you start to add in some other players, including Spencer Jones, who he's still going to play. He's still going to play significant minutes. Bruce Brown plays the most minutes off of the bench. But then you start to get into the question of, all right, can you really survive if you just play an 8-man rotation, a 9-man rotation, something of that nature? No, I think Denver's got to open it up at least a little bit more. And so this way, Denver at least tries to reduce the minutes for Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray just a little bit. And you have Bruce Brown out there. You give Julian Strawther a little bit of minutes. You give Spencer Jones that time as well. But you add in a guy like Deron Holmes, or it could be Zeke Naji, and play them at the power forward position to kind of support the idea, hey, Peyton Watson, we know you're starting there right now. You're not going to play there the entire time. You're going to play at least a little bit of small forward as well. And like people get a little bit concerned about small forward, power forward, and the distinctions between the two. I don't think that it's that big of a deal, especially for a guy like Peyton Watson, who is, he's somebody you're going to have at the dunker spot a lot of the time on the offensive end or just in the corner. And then on the defensive end, you want him as the rotational rim protector half of the time. So it is something that, yeah, Denver will be a weaker defensive group with him at the 4 versus him at the 2 or the 3, and then adding another defender in there. But I think that they need to worry about their offense and make sure that their offense is at peak condition. And then in the stagger minutes, you try to get by. But this is just an idea. Again, this is not the be all end all. This is just something that I came up with. And if you have other thoughts on who should start, who should play, the type of rotation that the Nuggets should put in, let me know. I have no qualms about answering some questions about who should be out there, because I think that while Spencer Jones has been really good for the Nuggets, I do think that it's a lot of pressure to go from, hey, not really sure I'm going to play at all, to I have to start now and I have to be good consistently. And that involves like being good offensively. It involves being involved. Like, especially when you're playing with Jokic, like you can't play 4-on-5 with Jokic on a consistent basis, in my opinion. So we'll see. Red White says, Ryan, do you still think we go 11-5 or 10-6 without Aaron Gordon and Christian Braun? Yes, and I'll go through the rotation and the schedule here right now. Just as so last night on Locked On, I said 11-5 or 10-6 on the Nuggets, like the games that they're going to play without Aaron Gordon and Christian Braun over the course of the next 16 or so. Now, Denver's going to play 14 games on the schedule, technically, but then they'll add 2 due to the NBA Cup. So let's go through them here. This week, they play at Memphis tonight. Then they have a break and they go San Antonio. Then they go at Phoenix. Then they come back next week and play versus Dallas before going out on a 3-game road trip against Indiana, Atlanta, Charlotte. Then they come back for a 3-game homestand versus, actually, let's go through the actual win-loss here. I think they win tonight versus Memphis. I think they win versus San Antonio on Friday. I think they lose the back-to-back at Phoenix on Saturday. And if not then they lose to San Antonio, win versus Phoenix. They'll go 1-1 again. So that's 2-1. You win versus Dallas. That's 3-1. At Indiana, I think you win that one. At Atlanta, I think you lose that one. So that's 4-2. At Charlotte, you win. That's 5-2. You come back versus Orlando, versus Houston, versus Utah. I think you win one of the games versus Orlando and Houston, and you win against Utah. So that's another 2-1. That's 7-3. You get to that place. At Dallas versus Minnesota, at Orlando, at Miami, I think you probably go 1-3 or 2-2 in that schedule, depending on like how things go. I think you could probably beat Dallas, even though it's on the back-to-back. Denver generally owns Miami, and they'll probably, like, the Minnesota game is a coin flip because they won the 2 road games. Minnesota will, of course, be very frustrated about that. Denver, if they win versus Orlando at home, they'll probably lose to them on the road. So, like, there's a reason at that point. Okay, maybe you're thinking 8-6, 9-5 in that general case, and then Denver adds another couple of games from the NBA Cup that we do not know about. So if they go 1-1 in those games, and maybe you're starting to get into the 9-7, 10-6 territory. But I do think that Denver will probably win one of the games that I don't expect them to win. That's who they are, and I think it's pretty reasonable to think that they can pull it out because, again, they've got Jokic, they've got Murray, and like, that's the thing. I'm going to share some numbers about both of those guys in the second segment that I think are pretty valuable. In some cases, most valuable. I think that people are kind of not really fully appreciating just how good they have been, specifically Murray, to start this season. I think that, oh my God, this guy's says Denver has the 3rd worst clutch defense in the NBA. We are not beating Memphis. What is Memphis doing? And like, we'll talk about it in the next segment, but what is Memphis going to do that Denver can't deal with, that Denver can't match up with? Like, I think they'll figure it out. They'll be fine. They've still got Jokic. Like, they've still got Jokic versus Zach Edey, and like, I don't think that Jokic is going to be letting Zach Edey off the hook anytime soon. All right. I think that Denver's going to be fine. I think that's like whether it is Julian Strother coming back, and he's not back yet. He's actually still out. So Denver has some things to worry about. Uh, I think they should be trying to factor into Ron Holmes at some point. They should be like, if it's not him, then it's Zeke Naji. Denver has to find ways for their offensive guys to get at least a little bit of a break, but that involves um, like them actually making some shots, and some guys just haven't made a lot of shots lately. Tim Hardaway Jr. has been going through a slump. Bruce Brown's been okay, not great lately. Jonas Valanciunas has been okay, not great lately. There have been some good things, some bad things. And Denver, if you just get some pretty consistent production from those guys in this road trip specifically, you're like, or not road trip because they're going one game, but like it's a game by game thing. And I know that David Adams is going to be figuring out some stuff. There's no like instilled principles. One guy that we definitely need to mention is Cam Johnson. Cam is like improving every day with this Nuggets group. This last game, he had 20 points, looked pretty good on both ends of the floor, continues to make important plays for the Nuggets. And I think that like as he continues to step up, he will continue to look like the player that the Nuggets hope that he could be, and Nuggets fans hope that he could be during this stretch specifically. Like he's been in compromised situations before in Brooklyn, so this is actually pretty familiar. And by removing Aaron Gordon and Christian Braun, you've added in Peyton Watson and like Spencer Jones right now. Like Cam has to be handling the ball. He has to be in control of some things. So it is sort of trial by fire in terms of, hey, you're going to get a lot of reps. You're going to get a lot of options. And I do think that over the course of this upcoming stretch, people are going to look back on it and think, wow, Cam Johnson really stepped up. Cam Johnson was really good during that stretch. I think that that is going to be a thing that Nuggets fans can take some solace in when Aaron Gordon and Christian Braun are out. So let's take a break. When we come back, we are going to do Mondays 3 and 3, and then we will preview Nuggets versus Grizzlies tonight. We'll be right back here on Pickaxe and Roll. This podcast is brought to you by Delete Me. Delete Me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone feel vulnerable. Data brokers, they profit off of your data. It's a commodity. Anyone on the web can buy your private details. This can lead to identity theft, phishing attempts, and harassment. Have you ever been the victim of identity theft, harassment, doxing? If you haven't, you probably know someone who has. Delete Me can help. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me. Now at a special discount for our listeners. Get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to deleteme.com/hit and use promo code HIT at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/HIT and enter code HIT at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/HIT, code HIT. All right, we are back. Pickaxe and Roll, Ryan Blackburn here. Thank you so much for tuning into the show, folks. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. All right. Ryan is a clown. Oh, this is the guy who's like just that's Ox in the profile picture. This is the guy who just keeps popping over from Player's Choice. I don't care, my guy. I think that the Nuggets are going to be fine. Shocking. Okay. Denver, over the course of this last week, I think showed some interesting things. They weren't perfect during that stretch. Actually, they were relatively subpar during that stretch. You go 2 and 2, and the big thing that happened to me over the course of this last week was that Denver was 24th in defensive rating. According to Cleaning the Glass. Denver had some bad moments. The Chicago game, I think, was pretty bad. The Pelicans game, they let go of the rope in that one, allowed the Pelicans to somehow score 118. That's not great. That was one where, okay, I had a little bit of concerns in that game because it just wasn't the response performance I thought it should be. Then they only allow 109 to Houston, and that was their best defensive performance by far, which is hilarious. but they allow 128 to the Sacramento Kings the next night and lose because they don't have the energy to play at the level that they probably needed to. Look, I do think that some of this is that Denver, like, are they big game merchants? Are they playing really well against the best teams and the highest levels of competition? Like against Minnesota, they did pretty well defensively. Against Houston, they did pretty well defensively. Against Golden State, not in the opener certainly, but against Golden State without Curry, they did pretty well. They haven't really been tested by elite offensive teams yet, and so we'll see what it looks like when they can like really match up against some of these other teams. But without Aaron Gordon, without Christian Braun, you expect those defensive numbers to get worse. You would expect that like you're adding in worse defensive players into the rotation. And like Spencer Jones has been pretty good defensively. Peyton Watson's been great defensively overall. It's just that those guys were playing roles before, and now they're playing larger roles, but the guys who are behind them are playing larger roles as well, and they are not as good defenders. So this is just a natural byproduct of injuries. It's also the idea that, look, Denver is now like they're 12-4. They've now gotten through the early portion of the season, and this is now the grind portion. This is now the point where you have to just like try to survive every single night. You're not trying to improve night by night, in my opinion, from a defensive standpoint. This is the point where you're just trying to get through it without Aaron Gordon, without Christian Braun. So I would suspect that this defensive number does not improve. And or if it does, it's going to be marginal. And Denver right now as a whole, they're down to 11th in defense on cleaning the glass for the season. So with that in mind, I would expect Denver to probably sit around 11th to 15th for this rest of the time. They'll have some good moments, they'll have some bad moments, and that's okay. And again, as long as they're playing great offensively, it probably doesn't matter that much. Like there's a lot of people that want them to be the best possible defense that they can. But who knows? Real One says, Ryan, why don't you want to talk about Hunter Tyson? What is the point of having him on the roster? It's not that I don't want to, like, I'm not trying to avoid the conversation. It just doesn't matter to me. Like Hunter got a try in the last game against Sacramento, trying to give them a little bit of a boost. Didn't think that he played that great, obviously. And I don't really think that he adds much to the team. Before the season, I ranked him as the worst rotation player on the Nuggets, like the worst roster player, and thought that he would play the lowest amount of minutes for the group. And that's correct. Like so far that has happened. Look, if your season hangs in the balance because Hunter Tyson is playable or not playable, then you weren't that good of a team to begin with. So it's why it doesn't matter to me. Like every team has a guy like this where it doesn't work out and you feel pretty irritated about it. And Denver is going to need to move on at some point, and they're going to, or Hunter's just got to get better. But I don't think that it's going to happen. So whether it's the defense, whether it's the shooting, Hunter very rarely has made big threes for the Nuggets. Like it's one of his skill sets that he's supposed to bring to the table and just hasn't really done it. So it does, like, it's tough. Like Denver, of course, would love to have a guy in that position that is playable. So I don't know. Okay. What's up with the comments? Like, why did, and now we've got the haters here. Chose 6-foot Pickett and washed Bruce Brown over Russ. Ryan said Russ shouldn't come back. That's not what I said. I said that I understood why he wasn't coming back and think that there was a reasonable decision for the Nuggets to make. But yeah, obviously right now you'd like to have Russ. You'd like to have his skill set without Aaron Gordon out there, without Christian Braun out there. It would be nice to have another guy who could do some of the things that Russ does. But also, I don't care that much. Sorry. Okay. Denver's defense, they're a little bit worse right now. I think they will be better. But number two, Jokic points per game is up over 30 plus for this season now. 36 points last week in the first game, 28 points in the second game, 34 in the third game, 44 on Saturday night. His points continue to go up, and as the Nuggets have removed a couple of the other guys that score consistently with the starting group, he has taken on more and more of a responsibility from a scoring perspective, really amped it up. This started basically like after Denver lost that Portland game early in the season, but it has felt like he's really amped up the scoring even more. He obviously had the 52, or was it 50? No, it was 55 point game. He's had several other games where he's really gone off from a scoring perspective, and it's been impressive to see what the Nuggets have, like what he's been able to do, despite the fact that the Nuggets aren't in a perfect place for him to be great. He's doing a lot of isolation. He's doing a lot of good man. The comment section is just pissing me off. It's literally like, okay. Yeah, Jokic has been great scoring the basketball, and I continue to maintain that he will win an MVP if he continues to play like this. The efficiency has dropped just a little bit as the scoring volume has gone up, but I do think that the way that he's playing right now deserves a whole bunch of credit, a whole bunch of praise. He's getting that too. Like, it's not like he's not getting that. I thought against Houston, his defense was great. Thought against Sacramento, his defense was whatever. It didn't really matter because he was going up against Drew Eubanks and Precious Achiuwa, who, by the way, Precious Achiuwa was actually pretty good in that game. Yeah, Precious Achiuwa was surprisingly good in that game. It was like Drew Eubanks pissed me off. I hate his game. It's just nails on the chalkboard. It's just nothing of actual basketball skill. Other than a decent floater. And finally, for 3-3, Jamal Murray's like not surprisingly, but like under the radar, up to 22.8 points and 6.7 assists per game. Both would be career highs. And I think that is notable. And the way that it is notable is kind of surprising. When I went into the article that I did earlier today, Aaron Gordon, Christian Braun are out. Obviously, the Nuggets have been pretty bad in the minutes where Jokic, Brown, and Gordon have not played. Like, they have a minus 23.8 net rating in the minutes without Jokic, Gordon, or Brown. That's horrible. And the primary unit in that group is like 144 out of the 265 possessions have been played by this unit: Jamal Murray, Bruce Brown, Tim Hardaway Jr., Peyton Watson, Jonas Valanciunas. That unit has a minus 17.7 net rating. They've been surprisingly bad, shockingly so. And to me, okay, you usually look at the leader in that unit. You usually look at Jamal. You usually look at the guy who is controlling the offense as, hey, is this the reason why it's happening? By the way, that unit is the second worst in the entire NBA of teams that have played, of units that have played 100 plus possessions. The only lineup that is worse, ironically, Ben Saraff, Cam Thomas, Terrence Mann, Michael Porter Jr., and Nick Claxton, the starting lineup for the woefully bad Brooklyn Nets, which is extremely ironic. But the numbers for Murray, specifically within that unit, are not the reason why they are losing. Per 100 possessions in that particular, or with Jokic off the floor specifically. So not just that unit, but like in the other combinations too. Jamal Murray is averaging 35.1 points per 100 possessions, 10.1 assists per 100 possessions, and shooting 64.7% true shooting in that time. And he's also it's 3.3 turnovers per 100 possessions. So he's got he's averaging 35 and 10 per 100 possessions. He's got a 3-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, and he's shooting nearly 65% true shooting. Like, it is not Jamal Murray that is the problem with that unit. And oftentimes, I see a lot of people criticizing Jamal for not being able to prop up a unit like that. He's trying, man. That dude has been real good in those lineups, real good in those minutes, and so good that like you start to look at some of the other contributors and that's in that case and thinking, how is this not positive? How is this not good enough? Like the way that he is playing, the way that Valanciunas has been playing on some nights, but it is some nights. It's not every night with Valanciunas. There are some gaps that have shown up in those cases. But with Murray, like he has been very good in those particular lineups, and I thought I'd make sure to mention that for sure. I think Bruce needs to improve in some ways. I think Tim Hardaway needs to improve in some ways. I think Peyton Watson with that bench unit specifically wasn't awesome. I think with the starters, he's actually better and clearly just showed up and did some good things. All right, yeah, this guy's going to timeout. I just can't look at that face. And it just feels like there's a lot for them to continue to grow out, to continue to get better. But there's also a lot of elements where you should be excited about what the team has done, with what Jokic has done, with what Murray has done. Murray, I think, like you can justify an all-star appearance this year. I'm not sure it's going to happen. I actually kind of doubt that it will. But if the Nuggets are in the top two in the West playoff picture and Murray is averaging these numbers, maybe his efficiency even rises at least a little bit more. Oh my God. Yeah, this is no wonder. Okay, so that's what it is. It's a guy changing accounts and and just being an ass. Great. Okay, is what it is. All right. Murray is like he's been surprisingly good. Could justify an all-star appearance if he continues to play like this or continues to even rise to the occasion without Gordon and Christian Braun. As for tonight, Denver plays a game. This is the final game that they play for the next 3 days. They'll have 3 days off for Thanksgiving, and then we'll play again on Friday. So you might as well go all out. And the Nuggets in this case will have some good opportunities against the Memphis Grizzlies on the road. They're currently minus 8-point favorites, according to FanDuel. There's a lot of good things that you can see about this. The point numbers, like you've got Jokic and you've got Murray up there. Jaren Jackson's going to play. Cedric Howard's going to play. But John Morant is out. John Morant, by the way, going at Klay Thompson the way that he went at him while he's in street clothes, I just, all right, whatever. Denver will see old friend Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. I believe he is available for Memphis, although he is now coming off the bench for them, which is pretty interesting. It's not a surprise given where they are within their season, but Cedric Howard, their rookie, has been really good. He deserves to play the way that he has played. Injury report for this game. Anybody else that's of note here? For Denver, Julian Strawther, Aaron Gordon, Christian Braun are out. You'll notice that the G League guys are no longer assigned to the G League. Looks like everybody is now back and available with the Nuggets, and not a surprise given that it's around Thanksgiving. You want them to be around the team. For the Grizzlies, Jaren Jackson is questionable with an ankle sprain. We'll see whether he plays, but Brandon Clark is out. He's been out for a while. John Morant is out. Ty Jerome is still out. Scottie Pippen Jr. is still out. So there's a lot of absences for Memphis. They've got some guys that you obviously have to account for. KCP coming off of their bench will be a thing. Vince Williams Jr. had a really good assist game for them a few games ago. I think he had 15 assists in a game, which is crazy. But they blew out the Sacramento Kings in that game by 40, which unfortunately Denver probably should have been able to win against the Sacramento Kings, but is what it is. And then this last game, Memphis had great production from Santi Aldama as a scorer. Zach Edey came back and had 12 points and 15 assists or 15 rebounds off the bench, and he did so almost entirely at the free throw line. So that'll be notable. But yeah, if I'm the Nuggets, you gotta know that Memphis is going to play really fast. They're going to play really hard. If Jaren Jackson Jr. is available, then he will spend a lot of time roaming around the paint against Jokic. But Denver, I think, should have some capability, some flexibility to be able to spread them out to put Zach Edey on an island, and Jokic, I think, should go to town in that case. So, I mean, the number for 30-plus points for Nikola Jokic is still at minus 138. Still a great number to me. Jamal Murray is plus 265 to reach 30-plus, but he's only plus 102 to reach 25. That to me feels pretty good. And if you don't like that number, then points, rebounds, and assists for Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray specifically. Actually, have they come out with those totals yet? I do not think. Oh, no, they have. Jamal Murray's 35.5 points, rebounds, and assists. 25, 5, and 5 would get around there. That's a pretty high total, actually. 35.5 for Jamal Murray's. That's a surprisingly high number. It's at various points, it's been like 29.5 before for points, rebounds, and assists. So his number's going up. Not sure if I like that or not. Vince Williams, 22.5. I think I would take the over on Vince Williams, 22.5 points, rebounds, and assists. That dude, like they have to have somebody create some offense, and I think that he's probably the primary candidate to do so. I think Denver wins tonight. I think they will be okay. It's tough. Like Memphis has been good against, like they won against Dallas, who's not a good team, especially without Anthony Davis. And they won against Sacramento, who, like, look, I know that Denver just lost to Sacramento, but Sacramento's not a good team either. I think that Denver will be fine. I think they'll bounce back. And Jokic and Murray, like sometimes you just need a reminder every now and then of like how best to play. And like with the way that those guys are playing and with Cam Johnson stepping up here, I think that Denver will be just fine. Actually, what's the 20 points for, let's see, with 3 threes for Cam Johnson is plus 164. That's an interesting number. And 20 points for Cam Johnson is plus 350. Plus 350. Do with that number what you will. All right, everybody, that is going to do it for this episode of Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends at Mile High Sports and FanDuel. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Really appreciate for those of you that do love and support that. I appreciate the love and support on the podcast. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out. I will talk to you guys very soon.